Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This just in, ladies and gentlemen, we have new Archfiend support. After all these years. And it's not just indirect support either. We have two new fantastic Archfiend cards in addition to a brand new archetype that synergizes almost completely with Archfiends. So without further ado, let's get straight into it, shall we? You thought that Archfiend Empress was the best waifu in the game. But let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we have a brand new mommy for us to think about. And she's called Labrynth Archfiend. It's a level 7 Dark Fiend, and you might be thinking straight away, ooh, it's level 7, which means Dark Spirit of Banishment can't summon it. No one cares. It's level 7, which means it's a Pandemonium target, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, Pandemonium is going to make a comeback in Archfiends, I believe. And I'll tell you why. So Labrynth Archfiend has the ability to special summon herself from your hand when you activate a trap card, which means if you activate Archfiend's Roar, for example, or Call of the Archfiend, or Torrential Tribute, or whatever it might be, special summon her straight from the hand onto your side of the field. Her stats, pretty respective. Defense of 2800. The 2000 isn't great, but she gets beefed up with all of the different trap cards that you have in your graveyard. Even though she's not level 8, you wouldn't really want to special summon her with the Dark Spirits anyway, because her effect would have been negated. Instead, you want to take advantage of what she has to offer. So basically, if you search her off of Pandemonium, she's in your hand, ready and waiting to drop straight onto the field as an additional follow-up, as an extender. And she also has the ability that once she hits the board, you can set a trap directly from your deck, so long as it's something that only activates when your opponent declares an attack. So that's normally cards like Mirror Force, for example. But there are I think there's about 70 different trap cards that we can have a look at and see whether or not they're useful for the strategy. But for now, just think, oh yes, it's the card that can set Mirror Force. And of course, being Archfiend focused, Empress can summon her. And thanks to the other continuous effect that it's got, it protects your monsters from attacks. So it sits there, right? She's this big wall on your side of the field. And if someone tries to destroy Labrynth Archfiend, if you've got Archfiend Empress on your side of the field, you can just start banishing dark monsters from your graveyard to protect her. It's fantastic. So you've got this destruction protection and you've got an attack protection all in one go there. And if they die, well, what do? You just use Archfiend's Roar, bring them back, or you use Dark Spirit of Banishment, bring Empress back, and just do your floating game from there. It's very good, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very excited that we've got this card in our card pool to start theorizing and deck building around. Fantastic. Now, the other Archfiend card that we have is called Archfiend Glitch. So this is a normal trap card, and it's an in-theme disruption. It reads, if you control a fiend monster, you can target one card on the field, destroy it, then you can send a fiend from your deck to the graveyard. It's a searchable fiend griefing, ladies and gentlemen, finally. Now we can almost, if we wanted, play 6 copies of Fiend Griefing. It's good, people. Start playing it in your Archfiend decks. Unfortunately, it's a then you can type effect, so if you destroy Empress, she will miss timing, unfortunately. And I'm pretty sure, because Pandemonium hasn't had any problem solving card text yet, the each time is also a when clause, so that will probably miss timing with this card too. But you could, for example, have Archfiend Cavalry, then you could use Archfiend Glitch to destroy Cavalry, send, for example, Archfiend Empress into the graveyard, and then because Archfiend Cavalry will happen in a separate chain if it's destroyed, you can then just target the Archfiend Empress that you sent and special summon it straight onto the field. Maybe you could send the new Labrynth Archfiend, special summon her onto your side of the field, and set a card directly from your deck. So those are the two direct pieces of Archfiend support. Now I'll go over the rest of the archetype and just tell you a little bit about how it functions and how we can utilize them best in an Archfiend deck moving forward. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter say, ooh, this archetype's really good for Unchained, or ooh, this could be good in like DDD or something. But no. Archfiends is where it's at, people. I'm going to keep going over this propaganda. So we start with Labrynth of the Silver Palace, or Silver Castle, whatever the translation ends up being. And she's a 2900 attack monster, a Dark Fiend type monster, and she's level 8, which means yes, the Dark Spirits can summon her, but also so can Archfiend Empress. And this card is fantastic. Right, so first of all, we're just going to slap the opponent with a continuous effect. They can't activate monster effects in response to the activation of your normal trap cards. So if you have Archfiend's Roar, they can't do anything about it. If you have Torrential Tribute, they can't do anything. Ice Dragon's Prison. It is over, ladies and gentlemen. You can also target a trap card in your graveyard, set it to your field. Not bad, eh?
I've just seen something really fucking scary in the mirror.
But you can't activate it unless you control a fiend type monster. But who cares? You're most likely always going to control a fiend type monster. And it doesn't get banished when it leaves the field. So you have this sort of recycling effect going on with your trap cards. It's really good. And then finally, just bang for your buck really. If a monster leaves the field because of our like normal trap card effect, then you can destroy one card your opponent controls or in their hand. Now that is really damaging, so in order to maintain this card advantage, it's one of those cards that can get out of hand fairly quickly. So you could use Archfiend's Roar, and that will automatically kill your monster at the end of the turn. That will trigger this effect. I'm pretty sure it triggers the effect anyway. Now, of course, there are many cards that this synergizes with, Torrential Tribute being like one of the big ones. Notice it doesn't say Graveyard either, so if you banish off of Bottomless or Ice Dragon's Prison, that all still works. But I do want to turn your attention to Archfiend's Roar, because some of the cards in this archetype make you plus with Roar like crazy. So I want to turn your attention to Labrynth Servant Arianna. This card, I think, in the future is going to be a must-have 3 of in an Archfiend deck. When she's normal or special summoned, you can add a Labrynth card from your deck to your hand. The really exciting thing about this card is if a monster leaves the field because of our normal trap card, you can not only draw a card, you can also special summon a fiend monster or set a spell and trap card onto your side of the field. This card turns Archfiend's Roar into basically a +3. You activate Archfiend's Roar, you bring back, say, Archfiend Empress, yeah? At the end of the turn, Archfiend's Roar destroys Archfiend Empress. Now, depending on your board setup, first of all, Arianna, you're going to draw a card off of her. You're going to special summon off of Empress, so that could be an Emperor, for example, or a Labrynth Archfiend. Then, if you've got any Dark Spirits in the graveyard, those are going to recycle back into your hand. Pandemonium is going to give you something, and to top it all off, you can special summon a monster using Arianna's effect. So you can bring Empress back onto the field. There are no downsides anymore to Archfiend's Roar, apart from the 500 life point cost, but no one cares about that. So being able to destroy Empress and revive 2 monsters at least is unbelievable. There are a few monsters that basically just help with the recursion of the deck, so I won't go into a huge amount of detail with those, but they're basically cards that you want to run just as like additional extenders basically. So one of them that's of particular importance is the level 1 fiend, Labrynth Clock, and this card basically, if you send it to the graveyard, you can activate 1 normal trap card the turn it's set. So this really helps facilitate plays. I think this is one of the cards that you want to run at 3 because you want to be able to have it early on. And just as I mentioned to, as I say, other monsters that are in the archetype, they send cards to the graveyard to activate a Labrynth card's effect. You can, while Clock is in the graveyard, you can add it back to your hand or special summon it onto the field. So it has its own way to recycle itself, which means you send it to the graveyard, you can activate, say, Archfiend's Roar if you want to, but this is another really good trap card that I'll get onto in a second, and then you can recycle this card a bit later on. Now we move on to the field spell, ladies and gentlemen. So I mentioned Pandemonium is going to be really good moving forward because it can search out Labrynth Archfiend, but I think we're going to be running both Pandemonium and Labrynth Labyrinth because it has 2 effects, right? If you activate a set Welcome Labrynth card, you can, in addition to its effect, destroy 1 card on the field, and it says on the field as well. So if you really want, you can pop your own monsters to plus. So if you've got an Empress and you want to bring some stuff out, and then, I don't know, summon Berserk Dragon at the same time, why not? It's party time. But the really important thing is the second effect. So if you activate a normal trap card that's like a non-Labrynth card, so Archfiend's Roar, for example, you can special summon a fiend monster from your hand or graveyard.
Oh my god! Wow!
This means you can bring Empress out more often than not. You can bring Labrynth Archfiend out if you want. It's a really nice thing about Archfiends is that you can run all sorts of level 8 tech monsters. So one that's going to be really strong in the format moving forward because of Mr. Rune and Sky Strikers is Invader of Darkness. So we can bring it out fairly easily anyway, but this card just facilitates it even more. So if you're bringing out Empress or whatever it might be off of Archfiend's Roar, go ahead, special summon Invader of Darkness onto your side of the field. Your opponent now can no longer activate quick play spells. So Mr. Rune's an auto win and Sky Strikers is an auto win. This also gives you the opportunity to create a control focused Archfiend deck because Archfiend Empress and Call of the Archfiend have the ability to summon level 6 or higher Dark Fiends. So Invader of Darkness is a very good one, but so is the End of Anubis. It's a level 6 fiend that shuts down the entire graveyard, which can screw us over but if you bring it out, it's going to screw your opponent over a whole lot more, particularly because you've already got your board established, and now you've just got this floodgate on your side of the field. That's going to be fairly hard for your opponent to deal with, unless of course they have blowout cards. So it's simply amazing. It depends if you want to search off of Pandemonium, or if you want to get additional special summons off of Labrynth Labyrinth. It's all depending on the game state. Then we have a quick play spell, which does even more recycling for us. So basically what you do is you target either in your graveyard or your banished Labyrinth spells or traps. So you target 2 of them, shuffle them into the deck, then you can set the same number of normal traps that aren't Labyrinth cards from your deck onto the field. So this allows us to set Archfiend's Roar directly onto our side of the field. It also lets us search Torrential Tribute. As I mentioned before, Ice Dragon's Prison. There's a really powerful but fairly slow trap card called Non-Aggression Area, which I predict this archetype is going to break wide open. So you, on your standby phase, activate it, discard a card. On your opponent's next turn, they can't summon at all, basically. And it's not a very good card, but of course, using a card like Labrynth Setting, you can set it on your side of the field during their end phase. Then you draw, activate it, and well, it's over, isn't it? It's basically an auto win. And if you happen to have the new boss monster on your side of the field, Silver Palace, your opponent can't activate monster effects in response to you activating your non-aggression area. So yeah, very strong auto win. Now we move on to the normal traps, ladies and gentlemen. So first of all, we have Farewelcome Labrynth. This card allows you to special summon a Labyrinth monster from your deck, but you can't special summon from your deck or extra deck until the end of the next turn, except for fiend type monsters, which doesn't really matter anyway, because you're going to basically be mono fiend. And if it's in the graveyard and a monster leaves the field by your normal trap card, like Archfiend's Roar, you can set this card back onto your side of the field, so it can continuously summon monsters from the deck. It's pretty strong. Then we have Farewelcome Labrynth. This card is more of a battle trap, so when your opponent declares an attack while you have a fiend type monster, you can negate the attack, destroy 1 card on the field, then set a non-Labyrinth trap from your deck onto your side of the field. Now this is insane because of 2 reasons. 1, you might want to search out something like Archfiend's Roar or whatever, but the important thing is that it has an "and if you do, destroy 1 card on the field" clause. So depending on the line of play that you're going for, depending on the game state, so what you can do is decide not to set something, and instead of popping something on their side of the field, if you've got an Archfiend Empress, for example, you can choose to destroy her, and then say, for example, you don't have any Dark Spirits, right? So you destroy Empress. If they're in the graveyard, since it's an "and if you do" and it's an attack declaration, so it's not during the damage step, Empress's effect will kick in, Pandemonium will kick in, your Dark Spirits will kick in, and depending on whatever else you have on your side of the field, that might kick in as well. So you can plus a horrendous amount by using this card and just choosing not to set something. It's incredible. Then we have Labrynth Barrage. So this just basically copies a normal trap card, so there's nothing really to say there. If you want an additional Archfiend's Roar, why not? So there's a whole range of cards, of course, that you can use with this card at your disposal, so have a think about it. I should also mention with the Arianna card that if you have Pandemonium on your side of the field, and once it triggers, and Arianna triggers, if you do a Chainlink 2 of Pandemonium and search whatever it is that you're trying to search for, Arianna in Chainlink 1 will be able to special summon what you search off of Pandemonium. So now it becomes this engine where you can basically bring whatever Archfiend you want from the deck, spit it out directly onto the field for follow-up plays or additional defense or whatever it might be. So they all work hand in hand with each other. It's just a fantastic archetype, and I can't believe we're getting direct Archfiend support in 2022. So for now, that's it from me. I'm going to be doing a lot of deck building, a lot of theory crafting. I've already been doing that with members of the community. It's been a really fruitful exercise so far. So once we can play around with them on the online simulators, then I'll have more to talk about in the near future. But until that time, what do you all think of this archetype? What do you think of the 3 archetypes that are coming out in Tactical Masters in June? Please let me know in the comments section. And if you enjoyed this video, my name's Adam. If you didn't, my name's Steve. And if you would like to see more Archfiend related duels, reviews, combos, and discussions, then feel free to have a browse, hit like and subscribe so that you get to see more of this content in the future, and hit the notification bell so that you get notified when it's uploaded. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you around.